Hey everybody, it's Femtrooper, and today I'm going to be talking about 10 JRPGs that I would recommend for beginners. The JRPG, it's kind of a daunting genre if you do not know anything about them. It looks exciting, but you're like, where do I start? There's so many classics, so many famous games that everyone talks just raves about, and that's, we've got so many. We've got like the Chrono Triggers, the Final Fantasy 7s, Final Fantasy 6, you know there's just too many to name. Xenoblade Chronicles. People have their favorites in terms of JRPGs, and JRPGs are they have insane fans. There are so many routes and avenues you can take if you want to dive into this genre. JRPGs are great because they have great stories, amazing characters, usually fantastic music, beautiful settings, interesting locations, fun towns to explore, fun gameplay. I just love the genre. I think it's fantastic. I do know, however, that it seems like if you've never played one, you'd be like, where do I start? And you don't necessarily start with some of these big classics that everybody talks about. Maybe you don't necessarily start with Final Fantasy VII. Maybe you don't start with Dragon Quest VIII or whatever. You maybe want to start somewhere else to see, test the waters, see if you like the genre. One thing I will say is that a lot of people actually started, they found their passion for JRPGs through some of these big titles. And I realize that you could start there, but sometimes telling somebody, hey, check out this game that's going to take you 60 hours long isn't exactly what they want to hear. I've come up with a list of 10 games that I think are more, not necessarily basic, but kind of. They're a little bit easier, a bit more friendly if you haven't ever played a JRPG. I would never recommend somebody's first JRPG experience be a game like, say, Xenoblade Chronicles, because it's got a wacky combat system, it's a really long game, it's super overwhelming. I feel like that's not where I would start. These games that I have chosen are games that I think you should maybe start with if you don't know anything. And the oldest game that I have chosen is a DS game, so I haven't picked anything that's really old, in the sense that if it's 2021 and you still haven't played a JRPG before, you probably don't have a Super Nintendo or a PlayStation 1 or something. So I kind of feel like, well, I'm not recommending anything like that, because this is for somebody who plays games now, but maybe they only play platformers. Maybe you only play action adventure games like Uncharted, but you're thinking, maybe I would like to check out JRPGs. I will also note that most people who watch my channel play JRPGs, so I realize that you probably obviously won't benefit from this list, but I like lists regardless, so I think we'll have a fun time. These games are in no order whatsoever, so let's just get right into it. And the first game I want to talk about is Yokai Watch, and I think this is a really good place to start. It's a simple game, but it does have that kind of monster catching aspect, kind of like Pokemon, and it's really fun. It has really good music. It's in a modern day setting, which is interesting because that's kind of rare. So you're not getting into a fantasy world. You're just in a normal Japanese town, current modern day. It's I think this game came out 5 years ago or so. So it's very, very modern, very current, really cool. You can go to a convenience store like 7-Eleven. But you're also experiencing turn-based combat. And I do think that the combat system in Yokai Watch is actually really good. This is a really good game. I don't think it's the best JRPG out there, but I do think it's a really good place to start, because it's simple, and I think if you like this game, then, dive into something else. But in terms of starting, Yokai Watch is definitely one I recommend. It's really fun. The next game on the list is a modern port of a really old game. And yes, it is a mobile version, but I do think that it's actually really solid and a good place if you want to check out, JRPG's roots and the origins. And that is the original Dragon Quest, which you can get for Switch. You can get it for your phone. So if you don't even have a Switch, you can just get it right now on Android or iOS. So definitely check that out. This is a trilogy that has the first 3 Dragon Quest games, and I played all 3, and I like all 3. But the original, there's something kind of special about it, because it's kind of the original JRPG. So if you do want to check out, the get a history lesson in JRPGs, then play the original Dragon Quest. Now, you can play Dragon Warrior on the NES. Sure, go for it. But this is a little bit more accessible. So I think if you're not into the genre and you don't know anything, check this out. It's also like 8 hours long. It's not very long. And if you like this, you'll probably like JRPGs because, in all fairness, there's not much of a story going on here. It's kind of like save the princess, kill the Dragon Lord. It's not really like very advanced. It's very basic, but it's actually really fun. And Dragon Quest has a really solid battle system. There's something addicting about this entire series. And I will say, if you do like Dragon Quest 1, you'll like all of them. Dragon Quest 11 is my favorite Dragon Quest, but I'm not recommending it because it took me 93 hours to beat. I don't think someone who hasn't played JRPGs maybe wants to step into something like that. But 8 hours? Yeah, sure. And it's really, really good. Next up on the list is another older game, but you can play it on modern day consoles. My version is for the Switch, but you can definitely get it on other consoles. So check that out. But that is Final Fantasy IX. You can obviously play it on the PS1, but you can play it on a ton of other modern day consoles. So I would look into that for sure. The reason I recommend this game is because, yes, it's a classic JRPG. It has its fantasy roots. It's not, there's no like spaceships and stuff. They really went back to kind of old school Final Fantasy, like 1700s kind of. It's really, really fun. It has an amazing story, has an amazing cast of characters, and the reason I recommend it for beginners is because there are assist options. So if you're really struggling, you can make your health go back up to 100 instantly, or you can make your levels go up really easily. So I think it's really good if you're just trying to get into the genre, you don't even know what you're doing. This is a good one because this is like one of the best JRPGs of all time, but you can play it kind of in an easier way. You don't have to turn on those options. You can play it old school, but if you want and you need that help, it's there, and this is amazing. So I feel like if you like this game, you're gonna love JRPGs because this is one of the best ones there is. Next up is a DS game, one I just beat recently actually, and that is Rhapsody: A Musical Adventure. This is actually a very interesting game because it's a musical, so there's singing, there's like, it's like a musical. That sounds stupid, but it's just not a common thing you see in games. It's very girly. It isn't very hard. You can play this on the PlayStation 1, and there actually are difficulty settings on the PS1 version, not on this one, but this one's still very easy, so I don't think you'd have an issue. But it's definitely very basic. There's no crazy combat. It's very simple turn-based, and the story is simple. You're not going to be like, what's going on? Like, it's just, it's easy. However, if you're not maybe into girly things, maybe you wouldn't be into it, but it's definitely one I would recommend if you're starting out in the genre and you do like like anime, or you like sort of fantasy adventure stuff, and cutesy things. You might really like this one to start with. Next up, I have two games because I couldn't decide. They're both in the same series, but we've got the South Park JRPGs. So we've got South Park: The Stick of Truth, which you can get on modern day consoles. I have the original copy from when it came out on PS3, but you can definitely get it on like Switch now, for instance. And I've got South Park: The Fractured But Whole. Both are amazing games. I think I like The Fractured But Whole more, but I don't know, Stick of Truth was really, really good too, so I really recommend these. If you don't like South Park, clearly you'll hate it, but if you like South Park, you are going to love this. This is I think this is really a series for people who like South Park. You don't even have to like JRPGs, but if you're playing it and you're like, you know what, I actually really like this kind of a game, then perfect, great opener to check out more JRPGs. The graphics are stellar. They look just like the show, so you're not gonna have you're just gonna feel right at home if you like South Park. You can go to all the places the school, like all the characters you love are in this game, or in these games, sorry, and they're just like, it's so fun. It's disgusting. It's so raunchy and so pure South Park, but if you like South Park, you really like them. They're short games, and that's another thing I'll mention, that Rhapsody is also a short game, but not Final Fantasy IX. That one may have taken me around 40 hours. So yeah, it's a big, more daunting, but there's definitely those options, those assist options to help you. These games, I think they're like max 15 hours. Like, we're not looking at anything crazy. These are not 100-hour crazy JRPGs at all. So definitely check them out. if you like South Park, you're going to love these. The next one on the list is Trials of Mana, and this is the basically the remake that's for modern day consoles. You can get this for all the other consoles. It's all basically modern. I have the Switch version, but you can get it for like PS4, for instance, and it's really fun. It's definitely it's very old school. I don't think the story was incredibly gripping, for instance, but it's a fun game, and it's very charming. It kind of takes me back to like PS2 era. That's what it felt like when I was playing it, but it is really gorgeous. It doesn't look bad. It has the same feeling of playing like a PS2 game. So if you like that, you'll probably like Trials of Mana. Again, difficulty settings, so you can play it on super easy. It's an action JRPG, so you're gonna, you're not there's no turn-based combat in this. So if you're curious about that, you've only maybe played turn-based, then check this out, because you might say, hey, I like action RPGs more. So check this out for that reason. But it's got a really good soundtrack. It's really, really fun overall, and I definitely recommend it as a beginner's JRPG. Next on the list, we have 2 games again, because I just couldn't decide. And that is Fire Emblem Awakening and Fire Emblem Fates. You can also get the other version, but I think Birthright is easier, so I'm recommending this. And before anybody says anything, yes, there is a newer Fire Emblem on the Switch, which I have, which I've beat. The only reason I didn't recommend it is because it has a bit more going on. There's, not only is there the Fire Emblem aspect, but there's kind of a Persona vibe going on, where you've got like a school aspect, and there's different things you can do, and I just thought, let's start with these games. This is what got me into Fire Emblem, and again, you can play it at the comfort level that you want. You can have permadeath turned off, you can have it on casual, you can have it on easy, whatever. So they're definitely like welcoming if you've never played an SRPG before, which I think is fantastic. They're really fun. They're actually pretty engaging. They're good stories, and completely different from the rest of the games on this list. They are SRPGs, so you move all the characters on like a grid. It feels like you're playing a board game or like chess. It's kind of interesting, and I think even if you suck and you're like, I don't get it, if you play them on easy, you'll be fine. It's really fun and a great way to experience a bit of a different style of JRPG. Next, we have a game that I don't have a physical copy of, but I'm definitely going to recommend it because it's just fantastic, and that is Cosmic Star Heroine. You can get this pretty much for every single console, and it's a really, really fun indie game. I absolutely loved it. I'm pretty sure it's like 10 hours long. It's not long at all. It's like a futuristic sci-fi game. It's super, super cool. There's aliens. It looks kind of like a 16-bit thing going on, so it's old school, but it's new, and the combat system is fantastic. Kind of reminds me of Chrono Trigger. There are difficulty settings. You can change them whenever you want. So you're like, you know what? This is too easy. Let's bump it up. And you're like, oh, this boss is super hard. Let's bump it down a bit. Super, super accessible. So I really recommend it. I absolutely loved it. I beat it last year, and I thought it was just, a really, really, really good time. Another game I want to recommend that I also don't have a physical copy of is Lunar Silver Star Harmony. That's the PSP version. I know there's a million versions of this game. There's like probably 4 or 5 versions at this point. I don't know. But that's the one I played, so that's the one I'm going to recommend. And I don't think there are difficulty settings, but I didn't find it very hard. And it's really, really fun, has fun characters, it's really bright and exciting, and it's just a solid game about friends, going on an adventure. It was really, really good. So I recommend that one for sure. I don't remember it being too long. It might be like a 20+ hour game, but by no means is it like 60 hours. The combat is really fun. The music's great. It looks really, really awesome. Each town is fun. I like the banter between the characters. It was a really heartwarming, fun game. So I recommend that if you're looking to start playing JRPGs. Last but not least, I picked 2 again, modern day ones, but quite honestly, I would recommend all of them, and that is anything basically in the mainline Pokemon series. So I'm picking these ones because they're the newest, so most accessible to everybody. I'm not going to recommend, one that came out 20 years ago. Also because they don't have experience share, some of the old ones, which can just make things take longer. It's not necessarily harder, it's just kind of more of a pain in the ass. So Pokemon Shield is the newest one. I'm only putting it on this list because if you want to play Pokemon, they're all kind of the same. but it's not my favorite Pokemon game. So it's here, but I'm really, really more or less recommending this one. I liked Let's Go a lot because it's basically a remake of the originals. And yes, it's easy because you don't actually do normal battles when you're catching wild Pokemon. You actually just throw a ball at them, kind of like Pokemon Go. But you do still battle gym leaders, trainers, whatever, so it's the exact same, but it looks gorgeous. It was actually really fun. I remember being so worried about that game when it came out, thinking it's going to be awful, and I actually loved it so much because it's my favorite generation of Pokemon. This is extremely welcoming and friendly if you've never played a JRPG before. These games are fantastic for that. If you like more of an open world setting, maybe you'll like Pokemon Shield. Lots of people really like this. I didn't think it was the best Pokemon game, but it's a great Pokemon game to get into if you just don't know if you like them. Check it out. I think any of them are great. Play Pokemon Sun or Moon on the 3DS. Play Pokemon X or Y or Black and White, whatever. Diamond Pearl. We can go back. They're just great games. I love the Pokemon series. Every time one of them comes out, I always get really mad because, you know, I always wish they had more of a story, or I wish they had something. I always complain. But that's because I'm a hardcore fan, and I just really like them, so I nitpick. But overall, I think it's a wonderful series. It's super fun, and it's kind of what made me like JRPGs. The first JRPGs I played, realistically, were Super Mario RPG and Earthbound. Earthbound is my favorite game of all time, and both phenomenal games. And then I played Pokemon Blue after that when I got my Game Boy Color, and ever since I played those sort of 3 games, I've become massively in love with the genre. It's just fantastic. It's one of the best. But I didn't want to pick anything that was too long or too daunting, or maybe didn't have difficulty settings, because you're just learning, you don't know. So these games, they don't have difficulty settings, but they're not hard. You're not going to have an issue. You're totally going to play, you're going to beat the game. Like, you're not going to have an issue. They're just fun. You just go through, you know, towns, you collect Pokemon, beat the gym leaders. It's fun. They're really, really, I just love Pokemon. Every game I just recommended is something I like. I wouldn't recommend something I don't like. I realized I wasn't a huge fan of Pokemon Shield, but I do think it's still a good game, and if you want to get into the Pokemon series, you can really start anywhere. So it's the newest game, so check it out. But I obviously didn't recommend Earthbound. Earthbound is my favorite game of all time, but I just don't know if it's the best game if you're beginning. If you've never played a JRPG, I think you should play something super accessible, and then be like, you know what, I like it, I'll play an Earthbound. I'll play a Final Fantasy VI, or whatever. I just feel like, I don't want to recommend that just yet. But these are all solid titles to check out. So if there's any game in here that you have questions on, let me know, because I've played all of them. I really, really like them all. And I just love the genre. So I wanted to just spread the JRPG love, because it's such a great genre. It's honestly, because that you could do so much in JRPGs, they tend to be long, but it's kind of like reading a really good book. I feel like it's the same thing. It's long, but so much happens, and they're just so much fun. So definitely check out the genre if you haven't. If you are a seasoned veteran and you love JRPGs, what are some games you would recommend to beginners? Because I have seen a lot of people say Chrono Trigger is a great place to start, or Earthbound's a great place to start. I just didn't recommend those ones, just based on the fact that they're older and it's harder to play them, and just, I don't know, they just didn't make my list. So let me know in the comments what you guys think, or what you think would be fun for beginners. There's obviously games that I haven't played yet that I would maybe recommend down the line, but I just haven't played them yet. So let me know. Please like, subscribe, and comment, and I will see you guys in the next video.